Shall I begin, Punter? Shall I go ahead and pull the shoe? I'll let them know. Good evening. Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to this festive event for Dr. Ron Daniels. Give it up for our man of the hour. My name is Richard France. I am the son of Dr. Ron Daniels, and thank you. I'm also an employee here at York College, the program director for NYC Men Teach. Our MC is running a little late, so I'm going to get the party started. We have reserved seats up front for York College faculty. Administration, provost, please come on up front if you choose. There are seats reserved for York College faculty and administration right up front. Well, guess what? I'm relieved of my duties. I'd like to welcome your MC for this evening, Mr. Mark Thompson.
Hotep, Habarigani. It is truly an honor, and I'm sorry I cut it so close, but it's truly an honor to be here on behalf of Dr. Ron Daniels. Let's give him a round of applause. Ron has been a stalwart soldier in our struggle for a number of years. I went on cspan.org today just to kind of reminisce. It was 26 years ago this month that I introduced Ron Daniels, Dr. Daniels, during his campaign to run for President of the United States in Washington, D.C. It's hard to believe I was just, that it was 26 years ago. I was just a toddler then. But people thought I was dynamic and I could still introduce folk. We've got a distinguished group of people. We're going to get right to that. There's some other things I want to share about Dr. Daniels, and one of the reasons I was so hurried, someone was dictating me over the phone a message they wanted me to read to him tonight, which I'll share later. But someone who themselves has made quite a bit of black history. We'll share that a bit later. Have we had the invocation? So we'll start it. We'll go with the program as printed. Amen. Please, from the St. Mark AME Church, the pastor, the Reverend Dr. Kimberly L. Detheridge, will bring us our invocation.
Let us pray. Dear most gracious and everlasting God, sustainer and creator of life and the universe. Dear Lord God, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this evening. We thank you for the opportunity to gather tonight to celebrate, oh Lord, the retirement and final lecture of Dr. Ron Daniels. We thank you, oh Lord, for the man that he is, the leader, the mentor, the political activist, the innovator, oh Lord. We thank you for the way in which he has touched lives, oh Lord, and the way in which he has moved in the midst of the struggle for people of the African diaspora. We ask, oh Lord, that you will continue to bless him and keep him, oh Lord, that you will continue to keep him on the journey, oh Lord, as he goes on a different path, oh Lord. But we thank you, oh Lord, for 10 years here at York, oh Lord. We thank you for the way in which he has touched lives, oh Lord, with the way in which he has brought national and international conferences, oh Lord, and taken students, oh Lord, and created events, oh Lord, that we might learn more and become more knowledgeable about what's going on in the world. And dear Lord God, we lift him up to you right now. We thank you for all that he has done. We thank you for his compassion. We thank you, O Lord, for the passion in which he dedicates himself to equality and justice, not just in this community, but in this world. We ask, O Lord, that you will continue to be with him, continue to strengthen him, continue to guide him as he continues on his journey. And dear Lord God, we thank you for this night. We thank you for the final lecture. We thank you for family and friends who have gathered, and students and professors who have come to celebrate this night with him. And dear Lord God, for all that he has done, for all of what he has been to each and every one of us, to new paths that he has opened up and doors that he has opened up for us, we say thank you to him tonight. And we ask, oh Lord, that you just continue to bless and keep him and his family. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen. Thank you. All right. Here now to bring us welcome and greetings in this order, Randy Punter, and then we will have greetings and remarks from President Marcia, I'm sorry, forgive me if I'm mispronouncing. Randy Punter, and then the President will come forward, please, in that order.
Thank you. I am so humbled to be here tonight to celebrate my good friend, Dr. Ron Daniels, that I've known for 10 years or so. I am Randy Punter, Assistant Dean of Student Development, and good evening, and I welcome you on behalf of my good friend, Vice President Vincent Banray, and the entire York College Student Development team. I bring greetings to Dr. Daniels, his family, guests, and this wonderful community present here today. And you guys are really celebrating. You know how to party, don't you? Okay. VP Banray would not be able to participate in the final lecture event this evening. He was really looking forward to attending this event because he had worked collaboratively with you, Ron Daniel, for some time to stage several key lectures. The following York College campus community conversations were convened and or hosted by Dr. Ron Daniels in collaboration with the Office of Student Development and various departments at York College. A post-election speak out, sharing and caring in the era of President Trump. Can youth and students elect the next president? Do Black Lives Matter to Black people? Race and rage in America, bridging the police-community divide, the Trump presidency and the crisis of bigotry in America, and last but not least, the 50th commemoration of the March on Selma, Alabama, where Dr. Daniels was instrumental in taking many students, faculty, and staff to Selma to participate in the festivities, an event that changed and transformed lives of these young people. When they returned back to campus, they were so charged up that they ran for student government and became so involved in their community. Dr. Daniels is that bridge who brought together the past with the present. Faculty, staff, and especially students are forever richer for him touching our lives. Thank you, Dr. Daniels.
Good evening and greetings, everyone. It is so good to see so many people here, members of the York College community, members of the Jamaica Queens community, many of the members of the broader community who are a part of the span of our distinguished lecturer, Dr. Ron Daniels. I bring you greetings on behalf of our 8,500 students, our almost 200 faculty, our many staff, our many adjuncts. And I am sort of not delighted to be here tonight because what we're doing is saying farewell to such a good friend. And it was a friend that was introduced to me by a few members of this audience. The Barrons, right up front. Yes, you might remember. Also another good friend, not quite up front, Vice Chancellor, former Vice Chancellor Hershenson of CUNY. And indeed, there was another partner in that particular friendship who is not here but is represented, Congressman Meeks. And it was through that friendship that I came to know Dr. Daniels. He became our first distinguished lecturer here at York. He not only did great work in the classroom, but he took the work outside of the classroom in what we're now labeling at York the experiential learning. And this is something that our students, Mrs. Daniels right up front, who've graduated from York way back in the 60s and 70s, and those who graduate today tell us is so meaningful for them. So Dr. Daniels laid the groundwork. He's a very disciplined man. He challenges them in the classroom. Oh yes, he does. And then he takes them out in the field and he challenges them there too. And you've already heard about the work that he did with us to take us to Selma. And he took us to Selma before the 50th, laying some groundwork, bringing not only African American students into the fold so they could understand the basis of their history, but bringing students who come to us from the international arena, from Asia and Bangladesh and India, who don't quite understand the foundation, and he brought them in so they too can understand, as they move on to become Americans, the role of the African American civil rights movement and elsewhere, so they understand the roots of this work. And so it was no surprise when we organized a very strong team. Really, we led CUNY that year. We invited some other CUNY students along with us to go to Selma under the strict and firm tutelage of our distinguished lecturer, Dr. Daniels. And you've already heard, they came back. They were engaged. They met some of the icons. They listened, they learned at the feet, they walked across the Pettus Bridge, and they came back so engaged and committed that they engaged in student government, and they continue to do so and leave their legacy. So this is a part of what Dr. Daniels leaves as his legacy, his mentorship of students, preparing them for the internships that they just deserve, preparing them to challenge the work in research, preparing them to burn the midnight oil, and to be able to cross the divides so that, yes, all people can come to understand some of what he knows and then to open the doors even further. You have provided such inspiration, leadership, and guidance, Dr. Daniels. And I remember those first few conversations we had when I sort of tiptoed around so I could get to know you, and you sort of, were pretty straightforward and tiptoed around. Here we are trying to make this wonderful match. Who could have thunk, as it were, that it would have wrought such a beautiful thing? Dr. Daniels, scholar, activist, statesman, humanitarian, respected community elder, great wisdom. Over the past decade, we at York have been fortunate to benefit from your lifelong work. We thank you for all you brought to York College and our community, and for all you have done for us and will continue to do for the peoples of the African diaspora and beyond. As you go off to devote more time to solidifying your legacy project, the Institute of the Black World, to write books in your scholarly areas, and to engage in worldwide speaking engagements, I know this is not completely a goodbye to York College. I trust you will drop in to see us as time allows, to continue to share your wisdom in an occasional talk, and continue to encourage our students to keep on striving. As I mentioned at the opening, there are many people who really helped to make this happen. And beyond those individuals, there are many in the room, community leaders, alumni, students, student government leaders, legislators who have really strengthened York. They were there at the beginning, and they have been there with us to the present. And without that leadership, without that encouragement, without that support, we at York would not be here to be able to embrace Ron Daniels. So I want to also say to all of our elected officials, those in the room and not, a very heartfelt thank you for the support you have given this institution over these years, and certainly for the support that you gave in order to bring Dr. Daniels to us. Dr. Martin Luther King noted that the time is always right to do what is right. Dr. Daniels, the timing of your arrival at York College was right, and you always did what was right for us. So on behalf, again, of all of our 8,500 students, the many students who came through your classes, the many students who attended your seminars and talks, the many students You provided internships for those you took to Selma and beyond. We thank you for your work. We thank you, thank you, thank you. Dr. Ron Daniels.
Thank you, Madam President. Please give her another round of applause for those very moving words. And it is a matter of record just how cherished, as in her words and in Dr. Punter's words, just how cherished our comrade Ron Daniels is. Moving right along, speaking with student reflections in this order, Ashkar Patel, York College alumnus, Director of Scheduling and Community Liaison, City Councilman Danique Miller, followed by Betsy Milford, York College alumnus, Office Manager and Community Liaison, Rockaway Peninsula District Office for Congressman Gregory Meeks, and then followed by Ashley Torres, York College alumnus, Chief of Staff Councilman Richie Torres. If you would welcome those three in that order. Hear ye them.
Good evening, everybody. I want to say thank you for everybody for coming tonight to honor a great man, a great teacher, and a great community leader, and a great New Yorker for all things, and a great American. Let's go all the way there. Especially in a time of an administration that is not friendly to our communities, to put it mildly. We have a true leader in our community, especially York College, being a fellow graduate, along with the council member. I understand the importance of this institution, an institution that York College and its role it plays in the Southeast Queens and to communities of minority communities. And the work that Dr. Daniels has done in at this college is beyond words. First of all, I wanted to say to everybody, his racial and ethnic politics class, by far the hardest class I've ever taken in my life. I can tell my classmates, we all three were in the same class. Can you believe it? And it's just a testament to his work and dedication that all three of us took the same class together, and we're all three here now today representing different elected officials. And the best part, the best part of his class was not coming in to take the class, to take the test, or listening to him lecture you. The best part was the beginning of the class where he just talked about his life experience. And I'm just telling you, it was entertaining because you learned so much from it, because you understand the struggle he went through. And it's the same struggle we are facing today. Regardless of the actors and the players on the game, the struggle is the same we're facing today. And as minority students and minority working for government officials, it is our duty to take the lessons he imparted on us and make sure that our elected officials follow through on the vision. And the only reason, and I can tell you from my council member, he wants to retire because he's done. He did his work. What he's working for now is to pave the generation, the next generation of leadership. And that is us that is standing here together. So I just want to tell Dr. Daniels from the bottom of my heart, you were really, really, really tough. And I want to thank you for being who you were, because without what you've taught me, I wouldn't be here. And I just don't have any more words to explain what you have taught me, because every day it's pretty funny, because I'm sitting in the office and I'm coming into roadblocks and I'm like, how do I go about resolving this issue? And 9 out of 10 times I'm going back to his racial class. He taught me one thing: there are many different avenues to power and to accomplish your goals. It's up to you to figure out what you need to figure out and how you go about doing it. And so I just want to say thank you to Dr. Daniels for giving me the skills and the tools I need to do what I need to do to help my community out and the great city in New York City. Thank you, Dr. Daniels.
Good evening, everyone. Hello. Oh, should I put this on? I'm Betsy Millord, and I'm currently the Office Manager and Community Liaison for Congressman Gregory W. Meeks at the Rockaway Peninsula District Office. There are no words that exemplify how grateful I am to Dr. Daniels, Dr. Andrews, and the Political Science Department for their support and the pivotal role they played in my academic and professional goals. When I was asked to do a reflection of the program, I immediately thought about the internship class that was coordinated with Dr. Daniels and Dr. Andrews, and how it was instrumental to my success today. The internship class was the perfect opportunity for me. It provided exactly what I needed: experience on how government works. I was placed at Congressman Gregory Meeks' office, and I was challenged, and I learned a lot about the government. I developed my practical skills and learned the importance of organizing and strategizing to help communities. Furthermore, at the internship, I gained invaluable experience on how to network and develop professional skills. Skills like research, communication, and ability to solve problems are essential, and these behaviors are needed in any work environment. I truly believe that the first step towards my professional career started when I enrolled in the internship class. I was making a commitment to myself to have a career in public service. The experience that I received at both the internship class and at Dr. Daniels' classes propelled me, the experience that I received at both the internship class and the internship, which turned into a job, propelled me to enroll at the City College of New York Public Service Management program for my master's degree. I'm thankful that I had dedicated individuals, many who are influential in the political realm, such as Dr. Andrews and Dr. Daniels, as example of what public workers and professors are. The political science curriculum at your college has been an enriching experience. The curriculum is intensive and well-rounded and has a focus on critical thinking and analyzing political issues and governments. The professors are all knowledgeable and encourage students to be agents of change via positions that we secured with our internships and community service activities. Among many things, the internship class provided the real-life setting that many students want to experience. To Professor Daniels, thank you for the strong advocacy work as well as insight on various political topics. Your classes were always enjoyable and memorable. We at your college salute you for your hard work. You helped and guided us on our journeys. Thank you, and hope you have a happy retirement. Thank you so much.
Hello. Oops, let me put this down a bit. Hello, everyone. My name is Ashley Torres. I have to say, I am so honored to be here and celebrating your work, your accomplishments, your legacy. I have to thank Dr. Daniels for everything because he really gave me the tools that I needed to succeed. To be honest, you developed a reputation at York amongst the students, and I have to say, it wasn't the greatest reputation. All I was told was, whatever you do, do not take his class. And I was so scared. I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to transfer to Hunter to see how I'm gonna get these credits. But I took it. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try this out. And I am honestly so grateful that I did, because you taught me so much. I remember the first day of class, you were speaking about the Rainbow Coalition and how you created this coalition amongst different groups of people in order to create change. And I have to say that that coalition is what I dream to do each and every day. And that is what I fight to do, because I realize that together we can be the change that we want to see. And that is what I learned in your class. And because of that, I was able to become the Chief of Staff for Councilmember Richie Torres, the youngest elected official, and I think I'm the youngest Chief of Staff at this point. But you gave me the confidence, the tools that I needed. You pushed me each and every day to try different internships. Even when I didn't believe in myself, you'd be like, girl, no, you need to get it together. You got it. Don't give me excuses. And And you know what? I stopped giving excuses and I started doing it. And you didn't just do it for me. You did it for my brother. You did it for my family. And he couldn't be here today because he's going to law school because of the guidance that you gave him. And I'm honestly so thankful for everything that you've done for me, for my family, for the students at York. I have so much pride when I go to events and I see alumni from like different classes, and you sit there like, oh my God, we took Professor Daniel's class together, and we're all united. And like, I remember I got a phone call from Patel, and I'm like, oh my God, you're in Councilmember Miller's office. We have a whole network, a whole family, and that is what you created. And I hope that we can keep that legacy going and showing your work. And one day we're gonna get that coalition. We're gonna make some real change. And I can't wait to bring you back so you can see it. And congratulations. I hope you have a really wonderful retirement. Most people say they retire and they'll be gone, but I'm sure you'll be back. So thank you so much for everything.
Let's hear it for those three alumni, and you can see how Ron's arms continue to extend into the larger community and plant seeds and inspire young people to continue this very important work that he started. At this moment, we're going to have acknowledgments and citations. I see Councilmember Barron here, Senator Sanders. If there are others, also please come forward. Student Government President. So please come forward one by one. I've been instructed that in your citations and acknowledgments in the interest of time, to please try and reduce the reading of the citations to the whereases. if you don't mind. All right. Thank you. Please give everyone a round of applause as they come forward.
Here, Ron. You know, we don't have to read a citation for Dr. Daniels. And, you know, I like the fact that he worked hard for his doctorate, because sometimes in our community, you know, people loosely say, hey, Doc, how you doing? Hey, Doc. I don't let nobody call me Doc no more, or call anybody else Doc that hasn't put in the work like a real doctor has put in the work. So when you'll hear them say, what's up, Doc? No, 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 you're not a doc. You're not a doc. But what inspires me most about Ron Daniels, Dr. Daniels, is that he is a man of history. And what I'm most influenced by is his work with the 1972 Black Political Convention. That is a convention who really turned around American politics, you know, for our black community, from revolutionary nationalists, black nationalists, communists, socialists, those who are in the Democratic Party, Republicans. Everybody came together, and it was at that convention that the idea of having a real black political party and having black radical politics, and that inspired my wife and I to get into the electoral arena. So I had to come by today just to say, you know, he is more than a comrade in struggle. He is a friend of ours. And his wife, Mary France Daniels, we talk a whole lot on the phone. She ran for governor, y'all know. Give the governor a big hand clap. So we appreciate her, and I'll keep my remarks short, except that we are honoring a man of history, and he's not retiring. He's just shifting his work to the IBW, because revolutionaries don't retire. So get in trouble with me, say, Black Power! Stay ready for the revolution.
Good evening. Such a pleasure to be here for this grand occasion, recognizing the work of Dr. Ron Daniels, and I also want to acknowledge his beautiful wife, as has been mentioned. I'm Councilmember Inez Barron, and I'm so pleased to be here. And, you know, in the City Council, we have the ability to present council citations and proclamations. And we do have a proclamation that you can add to those that you have received before, because you've received numerous ones, all deserving. So I'm going to ask if you wouldn't come up here and stand here for I'll just read the last two whereases. I won't read all of them. So the last to talk about, his activities are so numerous and so prominent that it is incredible that one person can accomplish them. But his is the strength and God-given stamina of a true pioneer of progress. The people of Haiti are eternally grateful to him for the establishment of the Haiti Support Project that continues to provide their nation with humanitarian and economic development. His writing in publications and the press are widespread, as are his programs on local and national media outlets. As a proponent of liberation theology, he is called on nationally to present lay sermons to prominent churches and conduct workshops for many colleges and organizations. As the dynamic and fearless first African-American executive director of the Center for Constitutional Rights, he transformed this organization into a major supporter of the fight against police brutality, racism, hate crimes, church burnings, voter disenfranchisement, and discrimination, both overt and insidious. And whereas at York College, Dr. Daniels' dignity, grace, and insight have earned him the respect and the admiration of his students, as we've heard, and his breadth and depth of his knowledge and humanity have inspired them in his pursuit of truth transformed them. Now, therefore, be it known that we, the undersigned members of the New York City Council, are proud to pay tribute to Dr. Ron Daniels for extraordinary service and enduring contributions to York College, New York City, and the nation. And it's signed Idanique Miller, Inez Barron, Adrian Adams, Donovan Richards, Barry Gradenchik, Roy Landsman, Danny Drum, and Richie Torres. So I'm gonna ask his wife to come up also, and I know somebody's got a camera. Come on up, Mary. You wanna come take this picture?
Greetings. So a mighty tree is being taken from us. This is a tree that has given us shade. This is a tree that has allowed us to grow up underneath, and sooner or later, a tree must be taken away. But the reason that trees are taken away is that it will allow younger trees to grow. It will allow other trees to get up there. Because as long as the mighty tree is there, the younger trees can't grow. Now, those of us who know the doctor know better than to call this a retirement. That if we know the doctor, we know that he's going to do more work than he was doing before. You've got a hard job there. That you're going to have to convince him that he's supposed to be slowing down. Now, I am State Senator Sanders, and the governor gave me some choice words to give to you, sir. But this is too nice an audience, and I won't share them with you. My colleague, of course, in government is going to give you the citation, but we are really glad that you chose all the campuses that are out there. You chose Southeast Queens. You chose to be out there, and you can see that our contingent of our real residents of Southeast Queens that I was with just a little bit earlier have come to pay homage to. So everyone is here to pay that homage to you. I look forward to working with you in the new work that you will do. The IBW is really, really critical, especially at a time like this where we've got a madman running around in government, but we got madness down here. We don't have to go far to find madness. All you got to do is look around the street. There we go thinking again. So having said those things, I look forward to working with you. I would love to hear, well, there's so many stories. You got to tell them about Harold Washington too. You got to tell them there's some really good stuff that folk need to know how we got here. Because, well, then if that's the case, I don't need to say any more. God bless you all. You will hear from my colleague in government who will do this right. He's bringing the wherefores.
This weather's messing with me, but I had to be here this evening to pay my respect to a person that has been such a positive force on so many young people, a person that has been trying to instill in people a desire to do their research, to do their legwork, to do their history, to make sure that they understand the facts so that they can be like him, someone that you can't dispute. You know, someone that will be able to hopefully go out in the community and command an audience and command a subject and make sure that people are nurtured and fulfilled and given the knowledge and power and self-esteem so that they can stand up in the world and claim their place and that we can all claim our place. I can't thank Dr. Daniels enough for what he has done, for the fact that he decided to come to New York as my predecessor, as my colleague, not my predecessor. As Senator Sanders said, you know, the fact that you picked York to be your college and to be here was a blessing to CUNY, to Southeast Queens, to every student that encountered you. I'm just glad that you called me up every once in a while, and I hope I was helpful every time you called me, and I will continue to respond to your call because you're truly a community asset. You're truly not just a community asset, but an asset to this entire nation. And this proclamation, with all of the whereases, still can't fulfill the real need of encompassing your depth, your passion, your legacy, and the desire that you have to make all of us better. So Dr. Daniels, I want to just thank you on behalf of the New York State Senate. I do have this official proclamation. I'm not going to read the words. All of you have heard a whereas before, right? So, but I think you understand it from my heart, from the heart of this community. Dr. Daniels is a treasure that we will not be able to replace. We can only hope to walk some in his footsteps and partly in his shadow to continue your work. Thank you, Doc.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Joseph Edwards, and I am the Executive Director for Congressman Meeks, who could not be here in person this evening, but he truly is here in spirit. Reputation is what people say you are, but character is quite evident what Dr. Ron Daniels really is. It is such that it took time for us to, it touched us and caused us to take pause, to take a moment to come out and honor him for the contribution that he has made, not only to York College, not only to the Southeast Queens, but to the 5th Congressional District as a whole, and to this nation. A builder of minds, a builder of our future. We thank you, Dr. Daniels. On behalf of Congressman Meeks, and I'm not going to read the congressional proclamation in its entirety, but on behalf of Congressman Meeks, it is a privilege and an honor to present this congressional proclamation to you and to proclaim today, May 17, Dr. Ron Daniels Day. Also, Also, we always like to remember good. And what the congressman will be doing tomorrow is when he gets on the floor of the House, he will read into the congressional records this day on behalf of Dr. Daniels so that your children, their children's children, and their children's children will remember this day, May 17th, has been dedicated to Dr. Ron Daniels. Thank you for all you've done.
Good evening, everyone. My name is David Tobo. I am the student government here at York College. And when...
Student government president?
Yes, student government president, student government president, student government president.
The reason I say that, you know, it's like Leroy Comrie says, I am France, right?
I wanted to share some kind words and warm welcome on behalf of all students here at York College. It is both a happy and a sad day in the sense of so much that Dr. Ron Daniels has given to our college. But the metaphor of the tree, I think, was beautiful in the sense of there's so many flowers, there's so much life that has been planted by your hands, by your words, that you've been able to give to our community. So I want to thank you on behalf of all the students and present you with a small token on behalf of the students here at the York College. Thank you so
Let's applaud again all of the presenters. I want to give a shout out to Man Up Inc., who's joined us in the room. Shout out, y'all. Charles talked about people earning their doctorate. You know, one of the reasons we call everybody doctor, I say that because I'm a preacher, as Mary knows. That's just something we do in church. Everybody's doctor this, doctor that. And so what I want to do, we're going to do something a little bit like church now. I'm going to say a few words just very briefly and introduce our lecturer tonight. And then the soloist will come forward, and then the next voice you will hear will be that of Ron Daniels. That's how we do it. I do want to acknowledge Mary France Daniels as well. Now, clearly, Charles and Inez have always represented, you know, what a duo can do in government and power. Imagine if Ron had been president and Mary had been governor. Lord have mercy. But I just want to point out that, and also acknowledge, this is now Ron Daniels Day, so from henceforth and forevermore, the anniversary of Brown versus Board and Ron Daniels Day will share the same day. Amen. That is wholly appropriate because the three things, fundamental things that we've always been required to do to have a successful movement of our people has been to educate, organize, and mobilize. Education, organization, and mobilization. Most individuals, Don, have been successful at one of those things at a time. We've had great educators, and that was it, and that's fine. We've had great organizers and leaders of organizations and fundraisers. They do that one thing, and that's fine. They stay in that lane. And then we've had people that have been called in to mobilize movement and event and stuff on the ground, and they're good at one thing. Ron Daniels is one of the few people in our history, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not just saying this because I'm one of his best friends. He can do and has done all three. And Ron is the person who would publicize and organize and mobilize the conference himself and give the keynote address. But he'd always be left at the end because he was organizing everybody else to speak before them and have their moment. And he deserves so much credit. Let me just throw this out there to you for a minute. We know about the Black Political Convention in Gary. We know about the Rainbow. We know about Jesse Jackson's campaign. He inspired us to build a black political party in Washington, D.C., which in fact was the last one to have official ballot status in this country as a black political party. And whether anybody understands this or not, we ought to understand it. Because of the groundwork he laid going back to 72, as early as 72, we were able to elect a black president. There's a whole continuum of history that has led up to that. And so Trump's hateful reaction to Barack Obama, his obsession, he wants to just undo everything he did, all right? He's not only reacting to one man, one individual, one family, the Obamas, he's reacting to a whole continuum that Dr. Ron Daniels has been a part of for the past 40 years or more. That's his contribution. And so sometimes it's a feather in your cap when your enemies acknowledge you that way. Ron has never been a bourgeois intellectual. Charles, he's never been a self-congratulatory militant. He's always been humble and in the vineyard and in the trenches. On a personal note, I just want to say that, you know, we've had some close mutual friends and elders. Ron's an elder to me, but he's never really treated me like I was so much younger than him. He's always honored me by treating me like a peer, because we stood under the same elders. And I just want to acknowledge them, because when I talk to Ron, I deal with him, even when we're working, I'm still walking in the spirit with him and holding up the bloodstained banner of Dr. Shashi McIntyre and Dr. Ben and John Henry Clark and our brother Damu Smith, our fallen comrades. We're here trying to finish the work. As I take my seat, hopefully my tardiness will be forgiven by the message I'm about to read to you. I was literally walking on campus, typing this as it was read to me over the phone. Dr. Ron Daniels, one of the angels of our struggle, a writer, thinker, activist, scholar, and trustworthy brother. I love him so. He is in the lineage of Ron Walters. He has a worldview. He sees the world through a door, not through a keyhole. His dedication to Haiti has been immeasurable. At one point, the only free people on earth were Haitians, and Dr. Daniels has reminded us of that. Ron Daniels never stopped serving. He never stopped caring. He's stepping down from York, but he's not stopping. He's not stopping. And I can't wait to walk side by side with him again. The Reverend Jesse Jackson, Sr. Following the musical selection by adjunct lecturer performing in fine arts Ashley Gill, the next voice you will hear will be that of Dr. Ron Daniels.
To dream the impossible dream, to fight the unbeatable foe, to bear the brave dare not go to right the unrightable wrong, to love pure and chaste from afar, to try when your arms are too weary to reach the unreachable star. This is my quest, to follow that star, no matter how hopeless and no matter how far, to fight for the right without question or pause, to be willing to march into hell for a heavenly cause. And I know if I'll only be true to this glorious quest, that my heart will lie peaceful and calm when I'm laid to my rest. And the world will be better for this, that one man scorned and covered with scars still strove with the last of his courage to reach the unreachable star, to dream the impossible, dream.
We had a person who wanted to present a citation that we were not able to do it. So let's do that at this point. Let's give her a round of applause as she comes. We certainly did not mean to ignore her.
Hello, my name is Isma Faison, and I'm here on behalf of the community of Harlem. And when I asked the photographer with whom I should speak in reference to delivering this gift, the photographer said to me, "I don't know, Dr. Daniels organizes everything." So I said, "I've been standing on the sideline all this time." He said, "Well, I'm not organizing, and speak to Dr. Daniels." So I just want to say that Dr. Daniels is a long-distance revolutionary before the term was even coined. And in that regard, from Harlem, the Harlem Transformation Project, Art Gallery Harlem, Action Reaction Media, we'd like to present him with another revolutionary book, and it's called His Life in Pictures, Muhammad Ali. Because the fight is always on, and even though Dr. Daniels is leaving an educational institution, he is forever an educator globally. So thank you so much, Dr. Daniels, for everything you have done and will continue to do.
Let's get up for Isma. So how's everybody doing? I hope so, because this is my final lecture, so don't y'all get impatient up here now. You know, it's final at York at least, and it is an emotional moment because I've had an incredible experience here. So bear with me as I make some acknowledgments. First and foremost, I just want to acknowledge the Institute of the Black World 21st Century Ujima support volunteers who are here. Would you just stand? I won't necessarily call you all by name, but we have volunteers. Gadil Debay, yes. Zenobia Lewis, you didn't stand up, but Zenobia Lewis, and I'm going to single her out because she spent an entire year in Haiti working on our behalf, working with people on the ground in Haiti. Zenobia Lewis, also the cousin of Congresswoman Barbara Lee. Also, we have representatives of the Pan-African Unity Dialogue, which we convened over here. Would you all just stand up? Pan-African Unity Dialogue representatives who are in the house. All right, okay. Including the Honorable Sadiq Y, who is President of the United Africa Congress, is in the house. Barbara Scott, who is president of the New York chapter of the Association of Black Social Workers, is in the house as well. Right? And I think we still have some representatives of my pastor had to leave because she's moderating some big event, so she took time out to be here. That was my pastor who gave the invocation, the Reverend Kimberly Deathridge. But I think we also have members of the St. Mark family still here. Are you still here? Stand up if you're here, St. Mark family. All right, all right. And of course, you've all been introduced some of the great elected leaders who have joined us. We're glad that you've come out for this occasion. I want to give a shout out to also all the way from Newark. We got some people came here from Newark. Not only is Barbara King a part of the Pan-African Unity Dialogue, she is the head of the Africa Commission for the Honorable Raz J. Baraka, who's just been re-elected the mayor of Newark. And your guest, stand up, and your guest, stand up. I just don't remember his name, but he came up with her as well. And then there's another brother here from New Jersey. I forget, I saw him, I just recognized him. There's another Newark person here. Where's the other brother? Right here, stand up. All the way from Newark, or New Plainfield, New Jersey, actually. And of course, we want to thank WBAI. WBAI got some listeners to WBAI in the house. Shout out to Dan Coughlin of the Manhattan Cable, who was kind enough to underwrite the video that's being done. And of course, we would be remiss if we did not introduce one of the great revolutionaries of our time, really. And we're honored to have him as the Director of Communications for the Institute of the Black World 21st Century, Don Rojas. Not only the former editor of the Amsterdam News, the general manager of WBAI, also played a leading role with the National Urban League, also with the Director of Communications for the NAACP. He was the press secretary for Maurice Bishop, the People's Revolutionary Government of Gaston. And of course, our family here. All right, we got some family members who took time out to be here. So Michelle and Lexi and Quick and I'm blanking on my granddaughter's name. Cece, y'all all stand up. Y'all all stand up. And of course, the wind beneath my sails. I gotta, you know, I gotta go home tonight, so I gotta lay some more heaven. But she is my partner. She's my partner. She's not just my wife, she's my partner. I could tell stories about that. And I will tell a quick story. We got married, I was off Councilman Barron to see Hakeem Al-Budi, some big meeting we were about to plan. So I said, man, I'm going up to Institute of the Third World Press and da-da-da-da-da. You know, I mean, I didn't know she wanted to, you know, she said, you leaving me? I said, well, she said, no, I want to be involved. I want to be in this, right? So from that moment on, it was over, right? She's not just my wife, she is my partner. Give it up for Mary France Daniels, First Lady of the Institute of the Black World 21st Century. Stand up so we can see. course, my son, Richard France, he's running around here somewhere. He helped to coordinate everything, all right? Richard France, program director for the NYC Men Teach program. And of course, they have a York connection because she is an alumnus of York College as well. She's graduated from York College. So I guess it was destiny that I should land here. I've already acknowledged Assemblyman Charles Barron, but I have to just quickly say I owe him a particular debt of gratitude. I would not be here not for Assemblyman Charles Barron. When I left the Center for Constitutional Rights, because there was and I was the first African-American director of the Center for Constitutional Rights. But after 12 years, there was a certain yearning to return to the source. I was getting restless, and so I stepped out on faith. I didn't really know where I was going. And at that stage of my life, I wasn't sure I was even employable because I was this activist and all this kind of stuff, but you didn't really know. And they say you're supposed to have faith, but mine was a little wobbly, to be honest about it. But I discussed the proposition with Charles Barron, and I'd heard about this idea of having distinguished lecturers in the CUNY system. So I shared that with him. There was another possibility he was exploring. He said, look, I'll take you to somebody who may be able to help you. And he did. And I'm honored to have him here tonight, too, as well. And that's former Emeritus Senior Vice President Jay Herskinson. Let's give him a round of applause. When I went to the Senior Vice President, he didn't even hesitate. It wasn't like, he looked at he said, well, look, I'll send you 3 letters. One to City College, one to Medgar Evers, and one to York College. And so, of those 3, I decided to try York. And, I had all the conversations that President Keyes talked about, and this was the first time, actually. And let's say this, President Keyes was relatively new on this job. And I have to say this, York College is this great institution that came out of the community. But it had some issues sometimes. The rotation in presidents and so forth, a little concerned about that, and I'm sure she was a little concerned and whatever. But she not only embraced me, but I think we owe a debt of gratitude to her because she has done a remarkable job as president of the York College. President Dr. Marcel. Wonderful. Wonderful. Vice President Thomas, is he still in the house? Yeah. Well, he helped a little bit too because he's a friend of the family. He's a friend. He's like an extended member of our family. So he could sort of say also to President Keyes, well, the brother might have a little something going on. That helped out as well. And also, Dean Cherico is not here, but I wanted to thank her because I had to also go to the Department of, I had to go somewhere. I had to land somewhere. And they told a story the other day where people said, well, who is this Ron Daniels guy and so forth? But Dean Cherico knew, and the Professor Flynn, the Ron Daniels, So anyway, we had a great meeting. So I landed in behavioral sciences and the political science discipline. So I owe them a debt of gratitude as well. And of course, Vice President Van Ray could not be here, but Randy Punter is here. But Randy, with you, it's not only in your new capacity, but we worked together even when you were in student development and counseling office. Sometimes we were trying to get our interns together. We were having trouble recruiting them. The one office I could always rely on was your office because you send the material out and we recruit off of it. So I thank you and appreciate you for that as well. And so it's been a profound experience. I'm profoundly appreciative for this really extraordinary experience. Students in the classroom, yeah, I guess I had that reputation. And not by accident. And I don't really apologize for it. Because what I sought to do and will continue to do is to say that it's about critical thinking. I mean, this country would not be in the morass and mess it is now except for the failure of education to teach people to think critically. So students who came to my classes, yes, it was a little difficult because somebody said, he actually expects us to read. Yeah, I expect you to read, right? But it's beyond that. I tried to get them to understand the difference between the quantitative and the qualitative. Y'all remember those exercises, right? It is not just what happens, why did it happen? to think deeply. And there'll be times when you take a position and I say to you, are you sure? And you say you're sure, and I'd have them debate each other, and I'd disagree with you, and you would be right, and you back down. I said, why did you back down? Because once you know you're right, you stand firm on your convictions. Our task is really to teach people to be critical thinkers. Whenever we have an internship class, I'd always say, not only, I don't care what your belief is, always study the other side. Understand the other argument. There just may be something in the opposing view that you find that you like. And I remember some people started off doing research papers believing one side, and by the time they came back, wow, I was transformed. And so that was a part of, and that's the Socratic method. This is the way I was taught. I'm old school. I believe in challenging students. I don't believe in coming in and just regurgitating. No, you have to think. And so therefore, yeah, I had a reputation. Some people were ducking and dodging, but those who didn't, and by the way, they all talked about how tough that class were. If I recall correctly, all of them got A's. Every one of those students got A's. But also quickly, it was other experiences, not only the internship. And by the way, it does feel good. And President Keys, you may recall, at one point you came to me and said, are you sure you want to do this internship thing? I didn't really, and I said, I'll try it because I think I want to support my department. But it was an amazing experience because look what we have now. I can't even count them. We may have 13 or 14 students out of who are actually hired, who have jobs as a result of that internship program. And it is so cool now when I'm getting ready to make a placement. I call one of our former students about making the placement. And then they're networking with each other. That's really a cool feeling. So that was vindicated. But also, let me quickly say other things. State of the Black World Conference. We took students to New Orleans in 2008, Howard University in 2012. 2016, we went to Newark, New Jersey, State of the Black World Conferences. Haiti, I took a student to Haiti right after the earthquake, who came back and reported on those experiences. Some of you saw some of the forums, town hall meetings, and lectures that we had. And of course, the importance, the other thing I want to say about that, just in general, all of that collective work. The one thing I want to stress is what a blessing it is to have CUNY. Not only York, the CUNY system. Because when I say time and time again, and I think Vice President Herskinson, you and I talked about this, and you could appreciate this, but it's something that I really want to write about more and do more about now, is the public space. The public space, public hospitals, public education. And of course, Charles and y'all were dealing with public education, right? In a capitalist political economy, the public space is the great equalizer. The sons and daughters of working class people and minorities from York College and CUNY can compete with the sons and daughters of Harvard and Yale and Columbia. That's what we do here. And yes, sometimes it don't be easy. Sometimes it's not easy. But in the tradition of particularly some of the traditional black colleges, those of us who do this work, that's the other reason why sometimes it was tough love. Tough love, not because I didn't believe in you, but tough love particularly if I saw the ability and saw you slacking. Ain't gonna have it up in here. You're gonna bring it, right? Because that's our responsibility. But also understanding people working extra hours, got family problems, and I'm down with all that too. Let's work it out because we're gonna get you through here. And when we get through here, you'll be able to step out and be proud of the work that you've done. So that public space issue is something I also want to just stress. We have to fight hard to preserve CUNY, and that's what the Senior Vice President respected about Charles Barron. Because Charles, you were advocating for CUNY. You have been advocating for higher education. See, Brother Charles has this reputation of being, revolutionary. He's really kind of mild when you get it down to it. Really is. Bottom line is, Mr. Say ain't nothing, Mr. Do is everything. He's a doer, and that's why he's successful. So now, I said all of that, and you're saying, well, okay, let's go to the conclusion. Well, I ain't ready for the conclusion yet. Y'all got to be patient. And so now we turn to this final discussion toward a more perfect union, finishing the unfinished black freedom struggle. I chose that topic, President Keys, if you recall, in the little theater when I first came, the very first lecture I gave was entitled Towards a More Perfect Union, Finishing the Unfinished American Revolution. When in that difficult class called 214, we would start with 3 propositions. First of all, that America started, it was always from the beginning of democracy for the few. It was largely for white men with privilege and property. The second proposition was a little bit more provocative, and is that America from the beginning was constituted as a white man's land. And the students, but what I would say, but in both propositions, here's the point that we made. We're not saying this because we're hostile. We're saying this because it is a demonstrable proposition. And before you leave this class, you will know why America started as a land for white men with power and privilege and property, and why it was constituted as a white man's land. I'm sure you all remember the Naturalization Act of 1790. It's drilled into your brain. Because I gave them as Malcolm would say, the documented evidence. Not because we wanted them to be hostile to anyone else, but you can't really understand the nature of where we are today without understanding the long trajectory of this history. And so we just can't ground people in some mushy, Professor White, some mushy kind of milquetoast history, right? We have to give them the real deal. Yeah. And when you have the real stuff of history, then you are equipped to be able to fight for the kind of change that we talked about. Because as Ashley said, the third proposition we always put on the table was this: that it will be the people of color, racial nationalities and ethnicities that will be the future of this country. That's the last proposition that we put on the table. Because we understood, and we began to talk about how that would be shaped and how that would be made. But in that class, we also understood very clearly that you were studying, by and large, as we looked at the history of the Latino community, Native American community, and the Asian communities, that the African American community was foundational. The African American community was at the center of this quest for a more perfect union. So as we taught, it was not because we wanted to be chauvinistic, it was because it was the fact that we've always been at the forefront. We've been at the center. We have been the conscience of these United States of America. So as we gather for this assessment of the Black freedom struggle, it is at a particularly, as Matsumoto said, grave crisis in American history. We're in the era of the Orange Man. Right, the Orange Man. Where there are white nationalists, check this out, white nationalists who openly occupy the White House. Who would have ever believed that? And by comparison, I just want to talk about President Barack Hussein Obama. Now, if President Obama, if he belched, they were on his case. If he said the slightest little, in fact, Van Jones, who's a friend of ours, he had to get rid of Van Jones because he said something somewhere down the line, something. You know, they were all on his case. You got to get rid of Reverend Jeremiah Wright. He had to try to, massage that. Not so well, in my opinion, but he tried to massage that. Because people didn't understand, how black preachers preached when they talk about the contradictions of this society. But we now have in the White House somebody who insults people almost every day. An era of #MeToo, and we know the founder of #MeToo is a friend of ours, even a mentee of mine, actually. And he's a serial harasser and assaulter of women. Yeah. And now he is it's normalized, he's legitimized, and the Republican Party has placed power over ethics, power over morality. They are prepared to accept him because they have an agenda. And they're willing to look the other way. Even the evangelicals are willing to look the other way because of that agenda. Charles Barron may recall a moment at the Million Reparations March. We were down at the Million Reparations March, and Charles Barron got up and said, "I'm so angry, I ought to just go out here and slap the worst white person I see for my mental health." Well, it was hyperbole. I cringed because I wouldn't have said it. I said, "Oh, Lord, there you go again." But it was hyperbole. Anybody who knows Charles knows he really would not do that, I don't think. But when you ran for Brooklyn Borough president, what did it do? Bring it up. You ran for Congress, bring it up. You understand what I'm saying? The utter hypocrisy of the Orange Man being in the White. But out of all negatives comes a benefit. Because now we see the raw, naked face of racism and homophobia and all of these things, we know what we have to treat because it's been underneath. We had an example, and just forgive me for saying this, just today. Somebody running around in a restaurant challenging somebody, a lawyer, because he overheard somebody speaking in Spanish. Somebody who now has a history because he doesn't believe that Hasidic Jews are Jews. They're fake Jews, he says. Now, that would have happened 15 years ago. What we're facing now is it's now legitimate. We've now given license and credence for this kind of ugliness to, in fact, come to the forefront. The backdrop for this lecture for today is the 1954 Brown versus Board of Education decision. That decision overturned Plessy versus Ferguson, which said that equal was the law of the land. That decision was the capstone of the post-Reconstruction era. I have not the time today to sort of fill you in on all of that. Suffice it to say that out of all the progress that black people had made after the Emancipation Proclamation, but particularly in the Reconstruction era, when we had more black elected officials than in any other time than the present, there came a backlash. There came a reaction, if you will, in which black people were driven back to the plantations, were re-enslaved, were as convict leases. All of these ugly things happened, and the Plessy versus Ferguson decision was the judicial capstone of that era. It took until 1954 to overturn that decision, signaling a new phase in the struggle for black freedom in this country. And so now, as we stand on this evening, May 17th, 2018, the question might be posed, where do we stand? What is the state of black America? Well, let me read you where I think we stand. Our cities are crime-haunted dying grounds. Huge sections of our youth and countless others face permanent unemployment. Those of us who work find our paychecks able to purchase less and less. Neither the courts nor the prisons contribute anything resembling justice and reformation. The schools are unable to educate or unwilling to educate our children for the real world of our struggles. Meanwhile, the officially approved epidemic of drugs threatens to wipe out the minds of and strengths of our best young warriors. Economic, cultural, and spiritual depression stalk black America, and the price for our survival often appears to be more than we're able to pay. On every side, and in every area of our lives, the American institutions in which we have placed our trust are unable to cope with the crisis they have created by their single-minded dedication to profits for some and white supremacy above all. Sound familiar? Kind of sound like where we are? That was written in 1972. That is the preamble of the 1972 document that you referred to, Charles. So things have changed, but the more things change, the more they stay the same. I decided to go back and look at the Kerner Commission. The Kerner Commission was brought into existence by Lyndon Baines Johnson after the rebellions. I don't say riots. I mean, at least uprising and insurrections. I mean, people who rise up against their oppression are not rioting. They're in a rebellion. They're in insurrection. I mean, if the Boston Tea Party was legitimate, if that was legitimate, I mean, why is not people rebelling? Check this out quickly. It says here the level of intensity, because, and by the way, it concluded that America is moving towards two societies, separate and unequal. They were referring back to Plessy versus Ferguson. First level of intensity: police practices, unemployment and underemployment, inadequate housing. Second level: inadequate education, poor recreational facilities and programs, ineffectiveness of political structure and grievances. Third level: disrespectful white attitudes, discriminatory administration of justice, inadequacy of federal programs, inadequacy of municipal service, discriminatory consumer and credit practices, inadequate welfare programs. This is 2018. This is 50 years later. So, brothers and sisters, when we look at the state of black America, it's like everything has changed, and in some ways, Nothing has changed. Reality is that we're in a situation where we now have more black people in positions of power than ever before. And yet the data that we're facing suggests that we have a long way to go yet. Expanded middle class, black millionaires and billionaires. I mean, you got all these brothers now getting ready for what their max contracts, right? Black elected officials, thousands of black elected officials. Wealthy entrepreneurs, entertainers, artists, athletes, corporate executives. But in reality, what we're finding every day is that your status and your economic class does not stop you from being racially harassed. I mean, the brothers who was in Starbucks is professionals, right? The student at Yale is like, you know, I mean, what is this, right? I mean, you black people, look at all the most recent examples of black people being harassed. It's like a floodgate. Everywhere you turn, everywhere you look, black folks being harassed. And it doesn't matter what your class. As Malcolm said, you don't get oppressed because you're a professor. You're going to oppress because you're a Mason or else. You get oppressed because you're a black person. And so that's kind of like helping in some extent, because some of these folks, you know, don't really believe that it can happen to them because they are in a privileged class relative to most black people, but it's happening every day. Beyond that, there's a persistent gap between whites and blacks in this country. The most recently released National Urban League State of Black America report, where Don Ross and I were there for the launch of the report, says the median income for median income for households for whites is $63,155. $63,155. Black folks, $38,555. Unemployment, 3.9%. Oh my goodness, that's like full employment we used to be talking. But for black folks, it's always twice, 7.5% for black families. But that does not take into account those who stop looking for employment, which is defined as joblessness. When you factor that in, we have 15%. And for young black people, and these are the brothers and sisters that we worry about in the streets, 20 to 30%. If that were the case in the white community, there would be a revolution right now. They would not tolerate that circumstance. So brothers and sisters, we still have a long way to go. We are still far from the dream. But I have another concern. A major issue is the growing class divide in black America. For some time now, I say we now have two black Americas. Two black Americas. One black America is doing pretty good. I mean, you know, when I was in the Hill District of Pittsburgh, I didn't conceive of myself being a distinguished lecturer at York College, City University of New York. You know, I mean, I just ain't, you know, I ain't like gonna get rich and all that, but I like it. I enjoy it. It's some good stuff. But I just cited to you all of the black people who you see everywhere in this expanded middle class, black people doing well everywhere. But there's another America. I call it America's dark ghettos. People, what are you talking about? Well, that's because Kenneth B. Clark, this noted sociologist, wrote a book called Dark Ghetto. That's the advantage of being around a little while. You can remember and reflect on these things. You understand? So it's about the dark ghettos. And in those dark ghettos, Malcolm would say black people are catching more hell than ever before. So if you look at how well some black people are doing and you compare it with the situation that people are living in these dark ghettos, that means that they are ruthlessly being exploited. And that's my concern, is this whole question of two black Americas. They are separate but unequal. There is a state of emergency. I've been screaming about it, a state of emergency in America's dark ghettos. It is characterized by mass incarceration. Millions of black people who have been routed into the jails. And when our organizing class, when we studied the new Jim Crow, we learned that when you go into the criminal justice system, having been targeted, you are now in a caste system. You cannot escape because you have an arrest record. Because you have an arrest record, you can't get a job, you can't get a house, can't get scholarships. You are bound and you're deprived of your right to vote in many places. Then we have police harassment, arrest, violence, and murders. Just in the newspaper the other day, New York Times, headline says, Marijuana cases in New York reveal racial disparity. We are the ones being arrested. Black and brown people are being arrested. White folks smoke weed. In fact, they smoke more weed than we smoke weed. But they're not looking into the white community. They're looking, we are being targeted in the black community. And so therefore, we get arrested. And then, brothers and sisters, there's the murders and fratricide in our communities. Let me hit that again. That's why I appreciate Man Up in the community. Man Up. Because they're dealing with this very difficult problem. It's one of the most painful problems we face. In Baltimore, a black person is murdered every day. Chicago is at like ground zero. Senseless killings. I mean, people getting drive-bys, people who aren't even involved. I mean, beefs and all this kind of stuff that is happening. It's painful to black people. And we seem incapable almost to halt it, but it is a painful reality in our communities. The other reality that is gripping this country all across this country is the phenomenon of gentrification. Yeah. Gentrification is, I think you sent to me, Brother Patrick, I think you sent me this article. Gentrification is the new Negro removal program of the 21st century. Everywhere you go, we're looking at the phenomenon of vanishing chocolate cities. Atlanta used to be about 70%, down to about 50%. Washington, D.C., the original chocolate city, about 80%, now about 52%. It is not only that our people are being displaced, hear me now, not only being displaced, our culture is being displaced. You see, what happens is, Sister Judea, one of our students who just checked in, is when people move into our community, witness Harlem, they don't just move in and say, let me just blend in with the people. They tell the drummers in Mount Morris Park, Marcus Garrett Park, I don't understand that noise y'all making up in there. They come in and they displace the people, but they also want to displace the culture. And so we're in Harlem. Harlem will vanish. It'll only be for upper class black people and the affluent whites. That's all that will be there. Now, everybody has a right to live wherever they want to live, but we ought not to be in a situation where these traditional citadels of black culture are eradicated. But that's what we're facing. And all of that breeds trauma. Everywhere I'm going these days, more and more the psychiatrists are talking about the trauma in black communities. Imagine kids going to school who gunfire is just normal. That's not normal, but that's normal. Seeing somebody get shot and killed, that's just normal. Reading about it in the newspapers about the desperate conditions in the community, that's just normal. That was not normal in the Hill District of Pittsburgh. We didn't have that kind of carnage, that internal fratricide, that kind of internal pain that we were facing virtually every day. In the face of that, what is the state of the black freedom struggle? The state of emergency, I would say to you, in the face of it, we do not have a sufficient sense of urgency, will, or power or capacity to overcome the crises afflicting America's dark ghettos. That doesn't mean that we're not doing some work. Doesn't mean there's not some movements. There's a lot of movements going on, but it seems insufficient given the magnitude of the crisis. And so what I suggest is to finish the unfinished black freedom struggle will require internal organization and relentless, sustained external action. And among those things, let me suggest to you that first and foremost, and this is going to be uncomfortable for some of y'all because we're in the academy, and some of y'all, it's like, I don't like, we don't want to deal with some of this stuff. Dr. Maulana Karenga said years ago, Dr. John Henry Clark talked about it. Dr. Ben Yakiman talked about it. Dr. Leonard Jeffries talks about it. The key crisis in black life is a cultural crisis. By that I mean we have black people who still do not want to accept the fact that they are black, let alone African. We'd rather switch than fight. It's just like, well, we want them to support black business, but we don't say black. We want black people to be with us, but then we don't want to say black. And by the way, there's a reason for that. And I don't have time to go into it in detail, but we're the only group out of the slave trade that underwent a vicious system of cultural aggression. Malcolm said it. We didn't land on Plymouth Rock. Plymouth Rock landed on us. And a part of that, he said, was the greatest crime committed against Africans by Europeans was to take our names. That's not insignificant. To take your name is to take your culture. They did not totally succeed, but we've been grappling with how to reorient ourselves from being colors to Negroes and back to black and then over. Even now we're back to colored after being African. We are constantly still groping with who we are as black people. And that's not easy also because we live in a society where you have the dichotomy of white and black all the time. Everything white is glorified. Everything white is good. Everything black is negative in the English language. And the images, it's as bad as angel's food cake and devil's food cake. Difficult. And so our proposition is that we have to correct that. And correcting that, and by the way, these things I'm saying to you are not new. They're not profound. They're just reminders. Because every now and then we just need to hear it again so we're lifted up so we can move forward to do what needs to be done. And so in order to overcome this, the corrective is African-centered education. We cannot OD on blackness. Let me say that again. We can't OD on blackness. We need a dose every morning, every day, in the churches, fraternities. We need to know who we are. That's why we had Carter G. Woodson talked about it a long time ago. Go back and restudy it. Study something about black people every day because we are the people from whom all people came. That's not being arrogant. That's not being chauvinistic. It is an anthropological and archaeological fact. And we need that because we need people who have racial consciousness. Back in the old days, Professor White, they used to call them race men, women, right? I say righteous, black people with a sense of social responsibility. I use my words advisedly. Because as Brother Charles Barron has said, everything black ain't black. We don't need people who are just cosmetically black. We need those who are authentically black. Did I quote you correctly, sir? We need people who are of Dr. James Turner, of the race and for the race. Not every black person, we have a lot of people, everybody's of the race. Clarence Thomas is of the race, but he ain't for the race. We have a whole series of these fake conservatives running around here cashing in on their conservatism. They are of the race, but they are antithetical to the race. We need black people who are of the race and for the race righteously. And I use the term righteously advisedly because we as black people should never ever be opposed to any other people. It is not being anti-white. It's not about being it's not about being anti-anything. Charity begins at home and spreads abroad. Love thy neighbor as thyself. In fact, if one understands Afrocentricity, if one understands African-centeredness, it is based on Ma'at study. Go back to Kemet. Ma'at, which says balance, justice, and righteousness. That's who we are as a people when we're in our right minds. When we're in our right minds, we not only struggle to liberate ourselves, we are for the liberation of all people. That's who we are as righteous, conscious people. And we must also have African-centered values. I'll rip through them quickly. We need Umoja. Y'all, some of y'all that tip dancing around the Kwanzaa thing. Kwanzaa thing's important. Oh, I do a little bit of Kwanzaa, you know that. And the truth be told, some of y'all wasn't even doing it until the white folks heard about it, and they started asking you on their job, are you doing Kwanzaa this year? And then you went and started reading, what is this? Oh, yes, I'm into it. I mean, no, we need Kwanzaa, these 7 principles. They could be, I mean, what Karenga did was extrapolate from our own history and culture. That's what African-centered means. To look at the world through your own history. That is so incredibly important. Eurocentricity is about, when we grew up, we didn't know anything but Europe. It's as if India, one of the great civilizations of the world, did not exist. It's like China did not exist. Well, people in China and India were far advanced when Europeans, I don't want to denigrate them, but they were still in caves. That's not a negative, I'm just saying that's objective reality. And yet they, because they conquered, wrote their own history and wrote us out of history. Therefore, that's what Afrocentricity is about. It's as a Afrocentric worldview. It's to know your own history, as Bob Marley has put it. So brothers and sisters, we also need to heed Malcolm. Well, unity is important. Two others quickly out of that. Ujima, collective work and responsibility. Collective work and responsibility. Away from me, myself, and I, and more we, us, and our. Yeah. Ujamaa, collective, cooperative economics. Study those principles because we need those principles. And we also need operational unity, which is something that we in the Institute of the Black World 21st Century, this is what we work on, operational unity. The whole concept of collaboration within our communities is crucial to end the fragmentation, the isolation, the fragmentation, the silos. We have in the black community have people who are working 5 organizations, 10 organizations, they're working on the exact same project who are not in communication with each other. Do you really think that happens in the communities outside of us? We have people in other communities who don't necessarily even like each other, but they have an agenda, and in promotion of that agenda, they will communicate with each other. So what we do in the Institute of the Black World 21st Century is we promote collaboration rigorously. Come together. And so in cities like Baltimore, Philadelphia, and Pittsburgh, we have something called the Justice Collaboratives, where every 3 months, people who are working on criminal justice issues, we bring them to the table to talk about how they can collectively work on criminal justice policy reform. That did not happen before IBW came into the set. We focus on that. Sister Gloria, you know about the Black Family Summit because you're a part of it under the leadership of Barbara Leonard Dunstan. 27 black socially conscious black professional organizations. Socially conscious black professional organizations. When Hurricane Sandy was that the one that hit, these organizations sprung into action. Social workers, psychiatrists, psychologists, administrators in black child welfare to provide counseling services. They work together to help our people. Collaboration is what we need in the black community. And none of them have surrendered anything in terms of their sovereignty. But collectively working together, they have helped to empower our people and serve our people better. And yes, we need to heed also the call that Charles Barron just laid out. Oh, skipping over my notes. Pan-African Unity Dialogue, some of them set up, and they were introduced here today. The Pan-African Unity Dialogue, we meet on this coming Saturday. We meet every 3 months. We've been meeting for 5 or 6 years quietly. Reality is in this country, we have a diversifying black community. There are 50,000 Nigerians in Houston, Texas now, 50,000. New York has always been diverse. But in New York now you got what? You got little Ghana, little Senegal. Collaboration is what I'm talking about. And then economic organization. None of this is new, but I have to just stress it. We have $1.2 trillion of income at our disposal now. And so we must use this $1.2 trillion as a weapon in the black freedom struggle. We needed to help build businesses internal to our community. Malcolm said it. We must do what? We must control the politics and economics and social life of our community. But so did Martin Luther King. And so we need to build businesses. Look around our community. We're not there yet. We're not there yet because we still face the cultural crisis. Many of us still believe the white man's ice is always colder, even today. Otherwise, our businesses would be thriving. That's why we cannot OD on blackness, because we're not there yet. Still paying for what we want and begging for what we need, even with $1.2 trillion of income at our disposal. We need to employ ourselves, but much more than that. In a situation where we are now in dire straits, difficulties, I believe in the electoral process. I believe in marching on ballot boxes. Sometimes marching on ballot boxes won't get it. But we can exercise economic sanctions. We can do boycotts. Brothers and sisters, the Montgomery bus boycott worked. It worked. When Trayvon Martin was killed, we in the Institute of the Black World 21st Century called for an economic boycott of Florida. Why did we do that? Because that's where he was killed, Trayvon Martin, under the basis of the Stand Your Ground laws. The Stand Your Ground laws were being put forth by a billionaire called Koch, the Koch brothers. through something called the ALEC, the Legislative Exchange Committees, propagating these standard grain laws all over the country. Who do you think they were set up for? They were set up for you, because there's the image of the dangerous black man and woman that's lurking in society. That's why they're harassed, because every time they see a black person now, they are inherently a criminal, because that's what's being projected. So these standard ground laws was to stand against you. We had the opportunity to break as much money as they had. We had the opportunity to bust the Koch brothers. Why? Because we spend millions of dollars going to Fort Lauderdale every year. We drink a hell of a lot of Florida orange juice. Vacations to Disneyland. I said, let Minnie and Mickey play with themselves for a while. We could have done it, but we didn't do it. My little voice, I'm not, I'm not one of the big, whatever they call it. I'm just in the second tier, out here a little bit. Couldn't get some of the big leaders whose name I won't call to sign on. And in fact, some of them, because they're on radio, because on radio gives you some authenticity, they had a little program with Disney World. They were afraid they're going to lose their little scholarships. The reality is you would have got more scholarships. So my point is, we need to use economic sanctions. But we also need to study the science. Now I'm talking to young black people who want to do economic, they want to boycott everything at once. Well, you can't boycott everything at once. That's not cool. You have to use economic jujitsu. You line up your strength against the enemy's weakness and you win. There's a science to it, but we need economic sanctions. And Martin Luther King, in a section of the speech that many of you don't look at the night before he died on the mountaintop. The first part of that speech, because Martin Luther King was always grounded in the black community, universal coming out of the particular. He took time that night to say, use black people what you have in your hands. Support black businesses. He said, and if you're drinking Seal-Test milk and they ain't supporting you, boycott Seal-Test. If you're getting Wonder Bread and they ain't boycott Wonder Bread. If Coca-Cola is not doing you right, that's Martin Luther King speaking. Use what we have in our hands, black people. And then, just bear with me. I know you'll get a little itchy, but I'm coming. It's hot enough. I'm coming to it. It's my final one, okay? Progressive nationalism, progressive Pan-Africanism. Progressive Pan-Africanism. Du Bois said that Africa is the richest continent on the face of the earth. Yeah. It is the richest continent on the face of the earth. Marcus Garvey said Africa for the Africans. No, he said Europe for the Europeans, Asia for the Asians, Africa for the Africans at home and abroad. What he was saying is that Africa should be the base for global black power. It is the richest continent on the face of the earth, and yet everybody is benefiting from Africa except I'm just saying about general proposition, but Africans. And that is because, in part, we also have, and I hate to say this, and this is true in general, we have people who get into office who somehow think that we just elected them to replace the white exploiters so they can be glad to be the president of the Ghana, the president of this and the president of that, while in the meantime, the economic resources of Africa and the Caribbean are being bled off. I'll name China as one of the countries that's looking after its economic interests. I don't blame them for looking after its economic, that's what they're supposed to do. But in the process, they are largely, in many instances, undermining Africa because we have African leaders who are giving Africa away. And so we need to they're not progressive. That's not what Cabral talked about. That's not what Ghana, that's not what Nkrumah. They were not looking for these kind of African leaders. So we need to talk about ways in which we support Africa in terms of principles for foreign investment. African-centered models of democratic governance, our own conceptualization. The winner-take-all system, Brother Sadiq, why does not work in Africa? Particularly given the Berlin Congress and the way they carved it up, they got all these different people. You can't have a winner-take-all system with all these ethnic groups cut out. You have to include people within the process. And that's one of the things that we're working on in the Pan-African Unity Dialogue. Now quickly, let me just talk about the external policy. That was all internal. We need to end the war on drugs. The war on drugs has been a war on black people. The war on drugs has been, not Michelle Alexander, and she just read it, clearly been a war on black people. So in that regard, and we are very much deeply involved with the Institute of the Black World 21st Century, And one of the things that we really need to do as we're winning this war is prepare to receive our returning citizens back home. Let me say that again. Because we in the black community, first of all, many of these people who went to jail should not have gone to jail at all. Many of them who have criminal records should not have had criminal records at all. But now they have a stigma. They have a stigma on them. And we go along with the stigma. We, brothers and sisters, have to welcome our returning citizens back home. We have to embrace them. We have to work with them. We have to educate them. We have to advocate for them. We cannot dismiss anybody from the black family. We cannot do that. We must educate and prepare for the return of our black citizens. We must fight for the release of political prisoners. People who've been out there, who sacrificed their lives fighting for us, we're on their shoulders and we forget them. And yes, prisoners of war also, those who committed acts in defense of the black community. This is controversial, but I'm going to say it again. There's some debate about this right now because of something Cynthia Nixon said. We must legalize. We must legalize and regulate marijuana. Now, why must we do that? I don't even smoke. I don't mess with it. It's not about advocating the use of drugs. We are the ones who are being arrested. And as a result of that, if you legalize it, boom, that's out. But there's another step to it. If the rationale for legalizing is a disproportionate impact it's had on the black community, a new industry cannot be set up on our backs that we do not profit from. So therefore, when you legalize, you regulate, and the taxes from that must go back to help build and repair the black community. That's called reparatory justice. We need community control of the police.
Yeah, oversight.
I'm looking for this article right quick. Y'all bear with me here. Got myself all mixed up, but I'll find it in a minute. Interesting article over y'all in Brooklyn, People's Republic of Brooklyn. Right? Y'all saw this article? Brooklyn Safety Patrol leader is charged with sexual abuse of teens. It's the first part I wanted you to pay attention to. Brooklyn Safety Patrol. If you read this article, it points out that in this community, they basically control the police. The police don't roll up in this community and tell them what to do. They even got the command, the chain, the courtesy cars and everything. Read this article. What I'm saying, brothers and sisters, is there are communities where the police just don't roll up in the communities. They don't just do stop and frisk. They just don't do any way they want to do because they respect those communities and those communities demand that they be respected. So we need to control the police. And let me say further, we need to get to a system where we are not as dependent on the police. That's another reason why I like Man Up. We don't need to call the police for everything. We need to rebuild those structures in the black community that mitigate and negotiate. And somebody had a beer in the alley or something, noise. We should work that out ourselves. Because if you call the cops, they may get arrested or it may end up in a deadly confrontation. And if we know that, we need to work on that. Finally, and I'm coming to a conclusion, we need to fight for and preserve the public space, as I talked about before, as the equalizer in the capitalist political economy, as an interim strategy. That's what we should say back in the day, right? And we need to be bold. There is no reason why this country should not have a Marshall Plan, a massive amount of resources, federal dollars, to rebuild America's dark ghettos. If this country could rebuild Europe after the Second World War and put them back on their feet, having destroyed black communities, why can't this country rebuild America's dark ghettos? We have to make that demand. You say, well, Ron, it's not possible. No, it's not possible unless it cannot be achieved unless we conceive it. We must believe it. So in Newark a couple weeks ago, we put together a forum with Honorable Raj J. Brock, and we put forth the call for an urban Marshall Plan. And we're also talking about ways in which that can be implemented at the local level. But we also need to understand where Martin Luther King was going at the end of his life. People forget that. And by the way, talk to my students about this as well. If you go down to the Martin Luther King Monument, and you should, one of the things you find there is you don't see any of Martin's most radical propositions. It's all milquetoast. I mean, it's good. I'm not saying it's bad, but you know, Martin Luther King, at the end of his life, was calling for an economic Bill of Rights, which would demand, he was looking at that bounce check thing. That's a part of the speech that we also ignore, the bounce check. He said, in order to stop that bounce check, we need an economic Bill of Rights. What does that mean? It means a guaranteed annual income, a guaranteed education, guaranteed housing, and guaranteed health care for every American citizen. And on the issue of income, not welfare, there's a ceiling below which no American, black, white, brown, or yellow, or red, would fall. That is a radical proposition. But now you don't see that on the monument. You just hear, well, we've been to the mountaintop and I have a dream, and he had a dream, but he also talked about the nightmare. Reparations is an issue whose time has come. If you don't know about reparations, you need to know about reparations. Don't have time to go into it in great depth, but Institute of the Black World 21st Century right here at York College, hosted by York College. Our president met the president of, at that time, the Cave Hill campus in Barbados, now the president of the entire University of West Indies system, Professor Sir Hilary Beckles. We had 22 nations here for a national, international summit on reparations. Why? Because reparations is exploding. You see, if we're not fighting to get paid for the work that we already did, and it's not just the work, it's about the decimation of our communities. It's about the violence against black women, the assault on black women. It's about all of the wealth built on our backs that built this country. How do we just walk away from that? So, that's in the past. I don't know if that. It's not about whether it's possible. The victory is in the striving. It is remembering your ancestors. It's the healing that takes place because you are willing to confront that history and say, never again will people of African descent be exploited in that manner. And we need to do it at all levels. I know that the Senator and Assemblyman Barron have a bill in the legislature looking at what happened in New York. When I say all levels, what happened? Black people built Wall Street. Black people built the Capitol. I was in Memphis recently. The same family that owned slaves is now in the elite power structure that control. They have to pay. New Orleans, the same thing. We need to be fighting for reparations everywhere. We're broke to some extent, but we'll be unbroke. That's right. If in fact we made these people pay what they needed. And finally, we need to fight for a politics of social transformation. When I said interim, I was saying that because, you know, the journey of 1,000 miles begins somewhere. But we need to talk about how we change the system. That's not an immediate thing that may happen. It's irrelevant whether it's an immediate thing. It's the ultimate goal. This is not a fair system. In fact, if I were to quote this same, and go get it online, the Gary Black Political Commission, it says that this system does not work for black people, and it says it really doesn't work for anybody that's poor and working class people. It doesn't work for white people. Poor, white, working class, it does not work for them. They are just not sufficiently critically thinking enough to understand that it doesn't work for them. So therefore, they're putting a razor to their own throat. They're actually going against their own interests. But King said, I am convinced that if we are to get on the right side of world revolution, we as a nation must undergo a radical revolution of values. We must rapidly begin the shift from a thing-oriented society to a person-oriented society. When machines and computers, profit motives, and property rights are considered more important than people, the giant triplets of racism, materialism, and militarism are incapable of being conquered. That's not Malcolm. That's Martin Luther King speaking. Right here in New York, Riverside Church, and he said this. True compassion, he said, is more than flinging a coin at a beggar. It comes to understand that the system which produces beggars needs restructuring. I mean, you know, giving out turkeys and all, that's all nice. Brother Al, I seen him about, he was with Comrie's office. I know y'all should give out all turkeys and that kind of stuff. It's my dear brother. He's one of our students too, brother. You know, he just got elected to the assembly, and then they told him over there that you know, what they couldn't relinquish your citizenship or something like that. But that's all right, brother. We glad you're back. We glad you're back. We glad you're back. But my point is that we need to change systems. Now, some people get all narrow and you can't do nothing right now because the system is bad. No. There are interim things you can do, and it's exemplified by the work that the Assemblyman Charles Barron and Councilman Inez Barron do. They are revolutionaries in office. They believe what I'm talking about, but they also need to know that they got to fix some potholes. They know they got to get some educational programs. They know they got to get some health care. You know, a friend of mine running for office. I said, y'all check out Charles Barron. He didn't just jump up and run. He was involved in the community first, because we also need servant leaders. We need to get rid of these self-aggrandizing, self-serving leaders. I'm the first Negro to be elected to my office. Nobody cares. Voter registration and participation is down because too many black folks who are elected are just occupying space, just a little bit of crumbs here and a little bit of crumbs there. But we once said, you may join the system, but do not become systematized. Karenga said, I am realistic, but as for reality, we have come to change it. Politics of social transformation. So brothers and sisters, I'm going to close with a prayer, an African prayer. It's called a Sifa. And it goes something like this. And by the way, let me reiterate that what we're talking about really is black people being at the center, not alone, but being at the center of the struggle for a new society.
That's right. That's right.
And so may we always remember those who've gone before us. We in the African tradition, that's important. Remember those who've come before us. Maybe be inspired by their vision and their valor. Because where there's no vision, the people perish.
That's right.
Somebody have to have some guts and courage. That's right. It took courage. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X dead at 39 years old. We still got some young leaders around here equivocating, talking about when am I going to be able to lead? Well, lead. Put forth a courageous idea that somebody understands and somebody will follow, and they'll follow you. But nobody's just going to give you the torch. You have to organize for it, and you need to be equipped in order to do the job. May their lives continually remind us that service is more important than success. Let me say that again. Service is more important. Service is success. That people are more important than possessions. That principle, Republican parties, principle is more important than power. Be principled, have ethics. We need moral and ethical leadership in the black community. Because I issue this warning because we have too many people who are strayed away from being moral, ethical leaders. And I'm not some mushy sense. I'm talking about in terms of fighting for the people, loving the people, delivering for the people, and having an undying love in your work for the people.
Yes, sir.
Principle is more important than power. May whatever we do be shaped and molded by honesty, competence, and commitment. Competence. That's right, my students. What did I say? Competence. You know, the Black Studies courses used to be, we're going to take the Black Studies course. No, you come taking my Black Studies class? No. You're going to be, Sister Judea, we're going to be on it, right? Because I'm going to send you out into the world. I can't send you out there fumbling and bumbling. No. We're not going to have you like endorse and confirm the stereotypes of these folks who want to annihilate us. Competence and commitment. May our children and our children's children carry forth with pride the nobility and history of our tradition. May the Creator of us all, to the Creator of us all, we dedicate our lives to make this world better and more beautiful.
Yes, sir.
Brothers and sisters, I say to you that we're talking about people of African descent being in the forefront of a rainbow revolution. Let me say that again. We're in the forefront of a rainbow revolution. And in that rainbow revolution, Fagnon said, each generation, speaking to the young people, each generation out of relative obscurity must discover its mission, fulfill it, or betray it. So the young people are moving all around the country. Movement for Black Lives Matter. And by the way, let me just say, I forgot to put this in my mind. I have to say this. One of the beautiful things about the movement for Black Lives and Black Lives Matter, and we have a relationship with them, they believe in all black people must be free. Now, before you shake, let me just see what that means. For far too long, we've had our lesbian, gay, transgender, and queer folk in the closet, not allowing them to come forward with all of their power. 2 of the 3 founders are lesbians. They don't have to be in the closet anymore. We have to love all black people. All black people. And that's unleashing tremendous genius out here. A lot of folks out there. Some people, oh yeah, but what's that issue? And I don't know. And they've just overemphasized. It may be overemphasized. For far too long, it was underemphasized. So there may be a little period here where it may be a little, but the bottom line is we must love and incorporate and accept all black people. And so, brothers and sisters, we have to create a new society. And we want our people to be at the forefront of creating this society. We want young people to in part be in the lead. This is my final lecture. This is towards a more perfect union, finishing the unfinished black freedom struggle. I'm not retiring. I'm not leaving the struggle. I'm not, so my hymn will say, I ain't no ways tired. I've come this far by faith, leaning on the Lord and the ancestors. I just can't get tired. And you say that I can't get tired. Got to keep moving. Got to keep struggling, because my people are counting on me. We can't get tired. And as Martin Luther King said, I may not get there with you. The Rainbow Revolution may pass me up, Brother John. It may get past me. That's irrelevant. What is necessary is for me to do in my time what is necessary to push the revolution forward. And to do it in a principle manner, understanding that when we are in our right mind, when we are who we are, all people benefit from the work that black people do. We're not against anybody. It's a rainbow revolution, but we're at the center of it. So I ain't no ways tired. I'm gonna keep working. I'm gonna keep struggling. I'm gonna keep fighting. And the professor,
All right, let's hear it for Dr. Ron Daniels. We won't have time for questions and answers, but if you could remain on your feet. We want to thank all who came tonight. We want to thank Dr. Daniels. A great theologian once said to me that sermons, Mary Frances Daniels, are not just preached, they are lived. And Dr. Daniels' words are living words, are they not? Yes. His entire life and his entire life's work has been a master class, has it not? Yes. Thank you, Madam President, for having us here tonight. Thank you all the students, the alumni, the faculty. Give Ron's family a round of applause. And the people of God said, Ashe, and Amen. God go with you.